I want to switch gears here just because I want to be mindful of your time. And there's one thing I feel like I have to talk to you about, which is, all the animation that you do.
Yeah.
Last week you told me that you were animating for 14 hours straight one day. So for which I completely anticipated, because animation is so much more complicated than, most people think. And even with you using the software that you use, Absinthe. And so when you're putting out an animated film, I think your most recent one was I've come here for the truth, or
Yeah.
So when you say you're doing a 14-hour animation day, is it like 10 days like that for one of those shorts, or what's the grand total here?
No, it's not 10. It'll be... So, I've gotten really efficient. The first 6 or 7 I did, I was on a mouse and keyboard. And that wasn't because, I didn't want a drawing pad. It's because I had $20 in my bank account, and I had a mouse and keyboard, and I had these ideas I wanted to execute.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I've gotten a drawing tablet. Once the channel blew up, and I'm like, oh, I'm actually earning some living off of this. I got a drawing tablet, and I've probably doubled the efficiency at which I can make them. And even then, that most recent one took me 30 hours, which is incredible for an animation. Like, pumping out a 2 to 3 minute animation in 30 hours is way better than frame by frame or traditional rotoscoping would yield. But it's not far off from what any animator, because a lot of animators on YouTube use a very simplified style.
Yeah.
And I think it's not far off from that amount of time that you would any other style. And so animation is almost impractical on YouTube unless you're a lunatic like me who puts in the time. And that's why I do live action, not only because I love live action, and I think live action speaks to the heart of my work even better. I think the live action gets across these people having fun and goofing around in a way that the animation almost puts a mask over, even though my animations are shot the exact same way. They're also improvised also. Animation on YouTube, it's like, unless you go super simple, you're gonna have to put in some 40-hour weeks on the animation alone, and that's not even considering filming other stuff, managing the channel, responding to messages. That's 40 hours of animating. And it was the second RPG one, the third RPG one, that I put in a 70-hour week into that.
Okay.
And that might have been 5 or 6 10-hour days in a row at least.
Is the majority of the time coming from having the Absinthe software have errors and then having to go in and make new frames more than you expected, or is it just the design of the backgrounds?
It's the Absinthe, I've gotten to a point where it does pretty well what I want. There are times where you move enough that you're like, okay, this shot's gonna take me 4 or 5 drawings, and that's okay. But it's mostly just tracing. Each time you create a frame of a character, you're looking at anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes of tracing and coloring, and then you multiply that by 100 because you make 100. Usually for especially a longer video. I'm working on one now that I don't want to give anything away, but I'm a lunatic because it's gonna be like a 10-minute animation.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be worth it for the payoff, but it's gonna.
Yeah.
That's what I was working on this week, and I just was doing it before we called as well.
Okay. It's good to hear that reference point. I'm working on an Absinthe music video for an artist, which I'm really excited about. The majority of the filmmaking I've done since I finished film school has actually been music videos, just because there's a lot of really good musicians in the area, and it to me, kind of like you were saying earlier about getting freed from scripts and kind of tight constraints. With the music video, I can kind of experiment with visual creativity and not have to justify any of it. Nobody's really asking, why is this happening? And I think especially in hip hop, I've noticed this huge desire for cartoons. There's a lot of rappers with like cartoon versions of themselves as album covers, and I see like CGI videos sometimes made in Blender. But in terms of getting, the classic like 2D cartoon look, that's something where you're either going to put a lot of time in it or it's going to look, really cheap. And maybe cheap in a little bit less endearing of a way. And this artist where I'm going to be doing the Absinthe video with 3 years ago, I had tried, failed, and gave up on doing a frame by frame music video because I was completely delusional that I could draw a few thousand drawings in Photoshop's timeline editor. So when I found out about the Absinthe software where you could just film stuff and then convert it into a new look, like a cartoon, I think it's a really amazing tool, and I'm really excited to make something in that style. And it's good to hear from you kind of a breakdown of like, how many hours go into it, because, it sounds like a lot, but I don't think it's an unreasonable thing,
No, it lends it. It's such a good tool, and I love it because, yes, you do have to put in a whole work week to get like a 2-minute, 3-minute animation, but that is pretty unheard of as far as the quality is concerned, because it's essentially 2D motion capture. That's how I've described it in the past. And you result to have a fully moving facial acted animation in a week that conveys a story in a world is pretty new. That's something that Absinthe has allowed. And I just drew a blank. I want people to like. I put the tutorial out on my channel, the how I animated this video, and I wanted it to be part entertainment, part informative enough to like give people that like go and do it,
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot, like there's so many people doing it now, and the Absinthe. I don't know if it's actually called EB synth, but I call
really?
it Absinthe.
Okay, well,
I call it Absinthe. Some
Yeah.
people I've heard call it the other thing. But the Absinthe team reached out to me, and they sent me a graph of their downloads. And it was like, it went from it was like 200 times on a spike the day I did that video.
Yeah.
And then you see the results of that on YouTube. There's dozens, if not hundreds of people doing the Joel Haver style.
Yeah, I've seen that around lately.
Yeah, the meme has become, but and that is just one example of how you could show people, here's something. I bet you never considered you could do animation. Well, here's this,
Yeah.
or I bet you've tried animation, hated it. Here's another try to not hate it.
I found out about Absinthe a few years ago because Corridor Digital is really good at kind of talking about new creative solutions a little bit earlier than a lot of people. And I remember thinking, this is incredible. I got to make something with this. And I literally forgot it existed and just never made anything. And I'm pretty sure I had seen some of your sketches before. And, I was like, okay, this guy's doing cool stuff. And my buddy wound up sending me your tutorial. And that's what sent me down the rabbit hole of your channel. And I realized I already like this guy's stuff. And I thought it was really great that you were willing to kind of put out your process in full and make it not only just an explanation of how you make stuff, but a little bit of a step-by-step, because I think the more information and education is free of charge, the more we'll just have good ideas out there in the world, and that people are very, clenching of, these proprietary ideas, and I drew a little bit of a blank too, but I've just wanted to say to you, I'm glad you made that tutorial video. I was hanging out with my musician friend who we're going to do the music video for, and I actually had him watch that with me because I wanted him to be aware of how we were going to make what we were going to, because, musicians and video makers, our processes are very different, and it can be kind of mysterious to each other. And I kind of believe in having transparency so that they have a more firm mental picture of what I got to do to get something done in a certain period of time, so then that way I'm not just telling them 40, 70 hours of work and they have no idea what that means. And I remember we were watching your tutorial, and it gets to the point where it kind of breaks the fourth wall, and like the video we're watching is inside the video. And I remember he turns to me and he just says, "How is this possible?" He said, "How does this exist?"
Yeah, I wanted it to be a little weird, like, wait, how did this happen? And
yeah.
I'm glad people have latched onto that video, because, I saw Absinthe, like, I've been doing them since 2019. I did like three, maybe four before the RPG one, and I put in all the work and they just never took off. So I was like, these aren't worth it, until the RPG one. I'm like, oh, maybe they are worth it. But, I saw it in like 2019, and I did a music video for my own song with it. That was the first thing I did with Absinthe, and then I did the Galactic Emperor, and then I did some of that. And I'm kind of shocked because, I didn't see, like, I saw people running tests with it, like animating over existing stuff, trying to give it like a new style. But I didn't see anyone creating like original content with it and just filming themselves live action and creating animations. And I didn't think I was doing anything that crazy, but it was the tutorial video and I guess the explosion of the RPG that I was like, sometimes people just need to be shown that these tools are out there, and here's a applicable use for them that you could do today, Because I think when Absinthe came out, it was very technical, If you watch their tutorials, just like create a visual style over your video, and it doesn't go further than that. It doesn't show you something fun you can do with it.
Yeah.
And I think we need more creative tutorials out there. We need information presented in a way that conveys the output of what you're gonna do. And I think that was where the tutorial came in, that their stuff couldn't inspire the same.
That's a great way of putting it. I've always thought that the internet will eventually have the Bob Ross of tutorials, and what I mean by that is, Bob Ross is essentially giving a YouTube tutorial on how to paint a mountain, but he makes it really engaging and fun, and it has its very own specific vibe and personality. And so many tutorials are like, "Hey guys, I'm Jim from FXFX, and today it's like, hey man, I already know what you're gonna show me. That's why I clicked on the title. So like, trim this first minute," and then, and then from there, like you said, it's very technical and usually not showing something super fun you can do with it. I think the best thing you did with your tutorial is you showed how you could wear like a hat that would, in a silhouette, change the shape of your head and your body, and how then you could use that to like make new possibilities. So like there's gonna be a scene in my video where I'm gonna have somebody release like a cage of geese, and I was thinking like, okay, well, as long as I can find a cube shaped thing like a box, I can have him do the motion, and then so I think it's like it's almost like a form of like magic, where you're able to, maybe not have a big budget to go to these sci-fi locations or have all these crazy props, but if you have an object that resembles another one, you can just replace it out and do, very creative solutions.
I think the craziest realization I had with Absinthe is I was like, this opens the door to anything. Like, yes, a lot of people have said like, dude, you should make a whole movie. And I'm like, God, I want to, but God, that's insane. Because I think I have like, across all 20 of my animations, I don't even have an hour yet. And the prospect of like wrapping my head around like doing all the animating I've ever done, if not more, for one project, and then like that's taken away from like the weekly shorts, and then I probably wouldn't be doing as many animations for the channel. But just so it would take a lot to commit to it. but just the idea that's like I could make Star Wars from my home now. You know, I could literally make Lord of the Rings. Like I like it would be animated, but there's no limit to what I could create with this thing.
Yeah.
And that's like just the power of these tools, because yes, movement is tricky. So like you can't have, unless you draw like every frame to the point that you're just doing rotoscoping at that point.
Yeah.
Like full on rotoscoping, but you know, you can't have a crazy fight scene and a lot of movement and action unless you're ready to put in the time for that. But you can have dialogue and creatures and scenery and alien worlds and planets and weird shaped things and, you know, unhuman characters, and it's just so exciting because even if I'm not crazy enough to commit to that, I hope somebody out there is currently working on it, and I don't know that. So some homebrewed, like, you know, Star Trek, Star Wars, like their own universe, you know, that like they could bring to life now because this technology has been shown to them.
I was planning on having some fight scenes, so hearing you say that that's especially difficult makes me a little nervous. But I'm gonna try to commit to it. I want to have a character fighting himself essentially, so I'm gonna use like another guy of the same height and kind of like draw this dude's face on both of them essentially.
I think you could get creative with it, and either you accept a lot of the glitchiness, which is what I do when there's a lot of movement. I just accept. Or if you there is a way to create mask that limits the glitchiness that I haven't even really dabbled with because I don't shoot on a green screen.
Mm-hmm.
But or you could like just do stills, you know, kind of do like an anime style fight where like, you know, it's like you get the wind up frame and they go, and then you get the contact frame, like still edit. It really depends on. There's a lot of ways you could execute it where it wouldn't be such a pain. So I don't want to discourage you.
No, you're not discouraging. It's just, you know, it's funny to hear coming from you, especially having so much success with it. Going the anime way with stills is honestly a very smart thing to do. You know, a little side tangent. Corridor Digital has made live action anime shorts, which I think are hilarious because they've gotten the visual style of that sort of thing perfectly. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those shorts, but
I watch a lot of their React stuff, and I think I've seen them bring it up in their React stuff, but I don't know if I've watched them.
They have this video called Anime Baseball, and it's like this highly dramatized thing of just a batter just, you know, getting ready to hit a ball in baseball, and like they make this whole dramatic arc out of this guy going up against the umpire, and I think it's cool to see animation imitating live action, and then live action imitating animation back, and you know it's kind of this call and response thing a lot of the time with art and technology.
Mm-hmm. And I think Absinthe is cool because it's kind of a midpoint between live action and animation, and you know it's a way of shooting that most people could wrap their heads around because they've filmed a friend with a cell phone, or they've set up a cell phone on like a tripod, or because that's all you really need. You don't really need good picture quality for Absinthe as long as it's clear enough for it to trace the lines. So it offers a gateway into a world of creativity because, you know, I complain about this a lot with my friend Trent, who's in a lot of the videos. We always get the comments, "Oh, this one," like every live action video. "Oh, this one should be animated. This one should be animated." It's like the animation to me is a practical tool. If I need a sci-fi or fantasy world, I can't do that. So the animation I'm not just doing it to do it most of the time, you know, which was the joke of the 1 million subscriber video where I did just do it just to do it, to show that it's like it doesn't really add much, but but I think like it's a practical tool, and I think people should consider that. Like, can I accomplish just live action easier? Then maybe you should, but if you can't, then definitely go animation. If it has something like you're saying, like a over the top fight scene or geese or something, it's like you need to animate that. But like there needs to be that consideration of why you're it doesn't have to be so technical, but why you're shooting something away or why you're creating something away.
Yeah.
And sometimes that answer could be as simple as it was the way I chose to do that day, or it was the way that felt right.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to at least have that feeling about it, you know?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, I haven't really started filming this one quite yet, but besides a few tests, and the big thing that I've been trying to wrap my head around is filming at the correct perspectives. So then in the drawing world, it makes sense because, for instance, if I have somebody like in a cockpit, I'm like, okay, I gotta kind of hit it from this angle so that I can draw like the borders, you know, and have people understand what's supposed to be happening. Do you not shoot on a green screen because you don't want to, it's just cumbersome to set up, or is it because you're moving the camera around so much and it would get in the way? Like where does that come from?
It comes from mainly that I was meeting, like a lot of the films I did, I was meeting up with friends, like the RPG one, and like it was during COVID, so we'd meet up outside, and you know, Absinthe works as long as the background's still in Absinthe, it essentially acts as a green screen, you know, because I don't know how the technology works exactly, but I think it's a frame to frame, pixel to pixel comparison with maybe some reference around each pixels. But so as long as the background's not changing in each frame, it will essentially act as a green screen regardless.
Okay.
So it was partially practical because I was like, we're meeting outside. I don't want to bring a green screen and find a way to set it up on a tree or something.
Yeah.
Or I don't have any stands or anything, but it was also like the technology allows you to film anywhere, and that's really fun because you don't have to, you know, have this like hot light. I don't have that hot of. I have a crummy photo light, and that's it. But,
Sure.
But like,
yeah, I noticed you put the cardboard around it too to like angle it more, which, you know, again, just really, yeah, creative.
That's the only light I have to this day. But yeah, I guess that's you can use a green screen, and the benefit, like I said, would be if you export an alpha mask of it, it will crop out your character, and because you'll see in my videos if a hand moves, there's like the shadow or the history of the hand, and what the mat would do is it would, you know, track your hand as a green screen and cut out on the alpha mat.
Yeah. I was thinking I was going to change the shutter angle to have as little motion blur as humanly possible, so all the individual frames are like crystal clear. I don't know if you do that sort of thing.
Another idea I've had that I haven't tried, and it would take like 2 or 3 times the amount of time to like render, but filming in slow motion just so there's less difference between each frame could be a good idea. You know, I haven't tried it, but like filming and animating in slow motion, then just rendering it back at 24 FPS.
Yeah.